What's good? What's good? What's goody? It's your buzzing cousin Ghost Boogie, joined with my homie, all the way from London, the one and only.
Danny Chaz. Hello, Governor. I'm Danny Chaz. That's Ghost Boogie. That's Ghost Boogie, and I'm Danny Chaz. We've got Stiz, Miss Joy, Richie D in the chat, early joiners. Hey, Boogie, let's get this going.
Man, and look, we got an Herbs One beat banging, you know what I mean? Shout out to Herbs One. Shout out to everybody in the chat right now. So, it's Blurred Reality Wrestling, man. We took an extra week off. You know, we took a week off last week because I had stuff to do, and I apologize, but you know, we are back, and I'm looking forward to this one. I've really missed this time, and you got a chance to kick it with Herbs, so that was really cool last week, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed the conversation with Herbs last week. It's very true. Yeah. It's something different. I was like, I've been promising to do with him for a long time, and you know, everything lined up, and we done what we did, and catch the replay over on my channel, and we had a good time, you know, man. We went for like around 90 minutes, and usually on the Chilled on Sunday podcast, I start wrapping it up around there. I started wrapping it up, and Herbs went, "What are you doing? And are you not having a good time?" I said, "Yeah, I'm having a good time." He went, "Well, let's keep going then." And we done another hour. So check that conversation, me and Herbs One. It was fucking good time. But I'm glad to have you back, Boogie. You know, been looking forward to this episode. This is the Attitude Era. I'm looking forward to
this. This is the one.
Yeah. This is the most popular era in wrestling as far as I'm concerned. This is the shit. This is what I was already into wrestling. I was already into the American wrestling, and I started to dwindle and move away from it as I started to grow up and get older and start work and get out and be about town. And the Attitude Era is what got us back. Anyone mine and Boogie's age, the Attitude Era is what grabbed us and brought us back to wrestling. So I'm sure you concur, Boogie.
Actually, absolutely, because the thing that brought me back to, we've talked about it, was the Attitude Era that brought me back to the WWE. I just did not like the new generation or whatever the previous era was. Again, I forget what they called it, the next up, or what was it, the new era?
Yeah, new era, that was it. Yeah,
new era, right? So when they transitioned from the golden era, but I just didn't care for it. And we talked about how I had found and fell in love with ECW, and when they finally had real content and characters with some craziness, and they were doing some more extreme stuff. It was just amazing, and it drew me in, and it was Godfather, of course. So the whole train and the pimps and all of that stuff, man. And I was really big into the watching all of the pimp documentaries. I had them all, and I still have them all on DVD. And then the whole HBO had a bunch of different series, and those launched off of that. And then there was a bunch of different DVDs, and that was kind of that era. And so that's what brought me back. It was just amazing. Attitude Era for sure. Brought me back to WWF.
Yeah, I mean, what we had going on as well at that time, like grunge music was things were like we had like a gritty feel to our music.
Well, it was like the new metal era, because grunge was the early 90s, late 90s. That's when you had started getting it, like you had your Corns, your Limp Bizkits, your those like that, and even what is it? Why am I blanking on them? Self-Righteous Suicide, the
9 Inch Nails.
We had 9 Inch Nails, but When Angels Deserve to Die. What is that group? Oh my God! Yeah, System of the Down. Thank you so much. I appreciate that because I blanked on that. Yeah, so you had that era, and it was cool as far as that goes. I just it was just a completely different thing, and hip hop was changing too. And there was a split, and hip hop started getting more integrated into the actual pop culture more and more and more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you had your Red Meths and Snoops and starting to appear in and be associated with bigger brands.
And you'd see them appearing at the wrestling as well in the crowds. They would zoom in on them and go, "This week we got Method Man here," and there was a remix album that come out. I remember around that time, and they had the music from all the different superstars, and they had like remixes and rap versions on there. So they had like The Rock, and they had a Method Man remix of one of them. I can't remember what one it was.
Well, there was All In Together Now by Limp Bizkit, but the one thing that you may be thinking about as well is the one it's the Judgment Night soundtrack, if you remember that. So the Judgment Night soundtrack was one that really did the whole new, it was like new metal and rap all together. That was like the one that had it all, like right there.
This one I'm listening, the one I'm talking about was a remix album. So it was all of the entrance themes with beats put behind them and people rapping on them.
Oh, wrestling.
Yeah. So it was like the Rock's theme tune would have a beat on it, and then Method Man would jump in between the Rock says stuff. And yeah, I've got to find that. It's a CD, and it's all of them. Like one of them had Kane's theme, and it was a remix, and someone else was rapping it. Like it had all like Wu-Tang Clan rappers and all popular artists at the time. I'm going to find that CD because it sounds like we're talking across purposes, and I want to send it to you.
Yeah, man. I remember when like they came out and they had modified their entrance themes from the Attitude Era, like when Triple H got to work with it was the Game Triple H with Lemmy, correct.
Yeah.
And then
Motorhead. Yeah.
And then who was it? It was Undertaker working with the Metallica. Like it was coming out to Metallica when he was riding a bike and shit. Wasn't it Metallica?
No, it was Limp Bizkit.
Limp Bizkit.
Rolling was Undertaker's theme for a while, and Rage Against the Machine was DX, wasn't it?
Yes.
Generation X. That was Rage.
That was Rage. Yeah, that was the one that was epic too. Because I mean, that was yeah.
Because Rage had the one out at the time, didn't it? Don't do what you tell me. That one. Fuck you! I won't do what you tell me. That Rage tune.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Killing in the Name. Yeah. That one. Yeah. So yeah, it was all linking in. It was all popular stuff going on, wasn't it? But before it got popular, we're getting to episode 4 now. So we're at episode 4 of the documentary McMahon, and it starts off with Vince McMahon talking about Dr. Jerry Lynn, a wrestler from the 60s and 70s, who was his favorite. I think it might have been earlier. Sorry, it might have been 50s and 60s. Who was his favorite guy, and where Vince is the guy who Vince stole his famous strut from. You know, when he walks down the street. Conor McGregor does it now when he walks down the aisle.
That's where what you were talking about, the strap. Yes. All right. Yes. Vince stole it. Got it.
The strap. Oh yeah, earlier when we was talking earlier. Yeah. You had the mask on. Couldn't hear me. Yeah.
Well, I mean the mask. Yeah. I mean it's comfortable.
And my stupid accent.
That's what it was. It was the accent. I thought.
Oh, that's where he stole his strut from. So when you see Vince and he does that famous strut, it's from a guy called Dr. Jerry Lynn. And Vince, as a kid, Vince idolized him, and he was his guy because Vince, like me, he likes the heels. Like we like the bad guys. So that was who he idolized, and he goes into telling the story about the Dr. Jerry having a bright red Lincoln convertible, 1959 Lincoln convertible. And he was saying he's driving along with this guy, and he was playing the part 24/7. Like, this is like when we go back to when we was talking about kayfabe. He would, in real life, he would still be an arsehole. And he would just drive to, like, it'd come to intersections and wouldn't stop at red lights. He'd just blow straight through them. And Vince as a kid would be in the car with him, and he said, like, he was in awe of him and thinking, this is so cool. We just don't give a shit. He's just driving through all these intersections and cutting people off and just don't care. And so that's how the
that right there
starts.
And that right there, man, that you touched on a couple of things that it triggered memories. I'm a humongous Lincoln fan. I've owned every single Lincoln from 1970 all the way through let's see here, 86. The majority of them were town cars. I had a couple that were Continentals and Marks, and I had one that had a completely modified, it had basically like a Shelby. It was like, it had a Fox body. It was a 5-liter, but they had this damn they had it chipped, and it had the bigger rear end for drag racing and street racing. This thing was a monster, but it was powder blue and it looked pimp as shit, right? And I had this crushed blue interior and shit, and I had changed all the interior lights to like all the blue that matched it out. So I was just blued out in that motherfucker, and I would leave my interior lights on so everything would just be glowing blue on the inside. I was extra, man. I was listening to some shit, but I'd be racing people. I would go through tires. I would go through a set of tires a week, because at that time I could go to AutoZone or Pep Boys. It's a place here, and I could get 4 tires that in that size for $99. And when I knew I wanted to just go out and just smoke, because I would just sit there and I'd be at any intersection, be bumping Frankie Beverly and Maze and shit, and then just lay down a track of smoke and just burn out through the entire intersection and take off. Oh man. But man, that shit right there is those are memories. I love it, man. Though, just man.
I was the opposite. I was the 2 mile an hour man.
Yeah.
So I'd have the subs bumping in the boot, and I would just in the trunk, and I would be cruising, and people would be doing what you're doing, and I'd be thinking, no man, no one can see you when you're driving that fast. You know, like I was just cruising and chilling. And, yeah.
Well, you mentioned the red lights too, because I had the guy that I was named after, which was, I always called him my uncle, but he was like my dad's brother, and they grew up together like brothers and continued to be that way. He had the Z28 that my dad got first, and ended up, my dad bought it from him. But I remember when he had first got it, and we would be going around, and he'd pick up my dad, and I'd be a little tyke in the back, man. I'm talking youngin'. And I didn't have no seatbelt on, but this guy had an 8-track player in the damn thing, and talking about blowing through red lights and smoking tires and doing crazy stuff. And him and my dad, like, just yeah, I mean, they had open cans of beer, and that was acceptable back then. But
Yeah.
it was just the shit that they were doing, man, and blowing through those red lights and shit. And then they never thought about it. And if they would have gotten pulled over, only thing they would have gotten in trouble for was the red light ticket. They wouldn't have gotten a ticket for open container, and they wouldn't have gotten a ticket for me not wearing a seat belt in the back seat. It was just crazy back then.
It's just, yeah, I mean, it's just, it was different. Like, I hate saying it. It was different time. It was just like the cars never had seatbelts.
No,
we never had
oh my
seatbelts,
God.
and we never had seatbelts and baby carriages and baby chairs and things like that. No.
I slept on the dashboard or the actual rear dashboard where the speakers were if there were a lot of people, you know. So I mean, it was different. It was like you said, or I was chilling in between my dad's, like in his lap, and I'd actually be driving the car. I mean, as a little one, and we're going like 75 miles an hour. You know, I mean, he would he would take his big belt and wrap it around me and strap me in, and we'd get on top of his bike and we'd be going, and I would hang on to the front of the handlebars, and he'd let me drive sometimes. But I mean, I'm talking about preschool, 3, 4, and just being up there in the front, and we would be gone all day on a motorcycle ride and going to all the prehistoric sites that are in Ohio and going on these beautiful bike rides and stuff like that. Those are some of the best memories that I have of my dad and times that I got the chance to spend with my dad. So I know we took you on a diatribe about things, but this is what we do here on Blurred Reality Wrestling. We want to thank all of you guys for being here. First and foremost, Jenny Rabbit, thank you so much for being here. Miss Joy, thank you so much for being here.
Got Miss Joy, we've got Jenny Rabbit, we got Panda Badass, we got Joshua Runts, how you doing? We got is it Valet 0816? Hello. We got Richie D, we got Stiz Deers, and we also got Stream Elements. Stream Elements is always around.
Make sure you follow Richie D too, because and Miss Joy. Richie D is one of our usual suspect brethren that we just had a great sesh last night. It was game night. And of course, Danny's usual suspect brethren too. We are usual suspects. And this is kind of the usual suspect umbrella, as you say, because, we are all active and doing that damn thing to bring you content as much as we can. And shout out for y'all being here.
Have we got Mr. Mikey Unlikely, another one of our unisex? Unisex? We've got another one of our usual suspects brothers. How you doing, Mr. Mikey?
What did you say? What did you say? You unisex? I was wondering where you were going with that. I was like, what are we talking about here? Unisex? Like what?
Yeah, I'm just tripping over my words. It's been a long day.
That is my story of my life. Tripping over words, Mike.
Yeah, so the episode continues with a recap of the screw job, the Montreal screw job, where Bret Hart got his title taken away because he didn't want to give it up. So we get a recap of that, which we covered last time. And as a result of that, McMahon gets mega heat, like nuclear heat. He's absolutely hated by the crowd. Like legitimately hated, like as if the kayfabe was still in and everyone wasn't in on it. It was like
just
people
super heel.
Yeah. So Vince, being Vince, decided to turn it into business and lent into it. So yeah, that's where we're up to now. So these people say this is when the real Vince McMahon character was formed, and for me, it's the first time I realized that Vince actually owned WWE. Before then, I just thought he was a commentator, because over in England we never got the coverage of the steroid trial, or maybe I just didn't. It just wasn't on my radar. But we didn't get the coverage back then. And
the steroid trial was when I figured out that I was like, oh.
Yeah, this dude's a commentator. Yeah,
this is that guy's shit. Like I was like, oh, it makes sense. It makes sense now.
Yeah. So he turned into the bad guy heel, and shit, I'm having a mental fart. The guy for WCW.
Oh yes, you are talking about the one and only
83 weeks. Talking about him.
83 weeks. Yeah, one and only. And it's not Vince Russo, because that's who keeps going into my mind at the moment. But it's, man, gosh,
Eric Bischoff. So
thank you, Mr. Bischoff.
Eric Bischoff says that he was the first promoter to turn bad guy, and that Vince was copying him the whole time that he became evil Vince.
He was, though. He did join the NWO as far as like being in lead of creative and everything. I can see that he was that heel before Vince started to become the mega heel and do his thing with Steve Austin.
Yeah, so he was saying that he started he became the evil promoter and started the NWO, and that Vince became the evil promoter and started DX. So said he was using my own formula against me. He said, and he admits, he said, I done it first, but Vince done it better. He said, like, he was more theatrics with it, Vince, than Eric was. Eric was good, but Vince was better.
Yeah, when he actually said that, because he was very proud and boisterous about, how he, and his podcast, y'all, if you like that and you don't know, he does have a podcast called 83
Weeks,
based on the way that they kicked their ass for 83 weeks straight.
Mr. Mikey unlikely says, unpopular opinion. Mr. Mikey says, unpopular opinion, the screw job was a work. I think so too. I think so too. Yeah.
Really? So I really don't, because I mean, Brett, man, I really don't think that that's the case, though. I mean, I may be a mark, I guess. But I just don't think that that's the case with the fight and all of that. It was just, that's too much to be a work. I don't know.
The only thing that, well, ain't the only thing. One of the things that make me think about that is too much shit happened there, and too much shit happened with Brett's brother, and then Brett went back a few years later and become an ambassador and started giving speeches and shit, So if it wasn't a work, and he I think he would have been too upset about his brother's treatment to go back and be an ambassador and a thing. So I'm half with Mikey. I mean, I don't know the truth, but I can see where that opinion comes from.
I understand.
I can see where that opinion comes from. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get it and understand. I just, that one, I've never looked at it from that perspective. I've never looked at it from that perspective. And I'm like, man, if that's actually the case, Mikey, and that is a work, that is probably the best and biggest work that has been and ever will be. I mean, because everybody drinks, that's gospel. That's you know what I mean? That's in the Bible of wrestling. I mean, that launched that character so much that Vince and them they did that so much business just based on his hateful ass, and then all of his kids mean, you think of the stuff that Shane did. My God, I just remember watching at that point, watching wrestling and being back and hooked, and definitely watching Monday Night Raw and that match when Shane and Kurt Angle kept trying. I mean, it was a brutal match already, and he was concussed as hell, and already, and then he kept trying to throw him through that damn glass, and they kept botching, and it wouldn't break, and he kept taking these horrible bumps and falling back down on his head, and then finally being put through it. And I was like, all right, surely they're not. Don't call me Shirley. Surely they're not going to go back through the other one. No. Going right back through the other one. It's like, holy crap. And Shane taking the insane bumps that he did off of, like, he took some of the highest bumps out of all of them, and did heights like Mick Foley jumping off stuff from tables. It's just that his whole family, that was great.
Yeah, I mean, on the edge, that Shane tried to take on that Mick Foley role doing the big bumps, and he done them well. Like, they were never Mick Foley good, but they were. Like, Mick Foley was like a purist when he'd throw himself into something. Like Shane was throwing himself in the crash mats and hard things that are going to fuck you up and hurt, but not like Mick Foley was doing it.
Oh my God.
He was just throwing himself at the floor, Mick Foley, when he was just like,
Like, I mean, Hell in a Cell match everybody talks about that. And did you get a chance to finally see the Hell in a Cell match from this year's Bad Blood with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk?
Yeah.
Ooh, that was a great one, and those were real cuts. I mean, he had staples in his head. Both of those guys got bloody, and both of them are even selling it right now. They've got vacation and selling their bumps, and good for them, because those guys actually, out of, I guess, if I have to say anything, that's the story of the year, because of when CM Punk came back and Drew McIntyre and Seth and all of them having so much heat together, and the story that they did, and even how they were able to continue to perpetuate the story while CM Punk was hurt. He was actually showing up and had showed up on I didn't realize my damn medical bracelet was still on. Like I got I got all these. Why didn't you tell me, Danny, that like I'm possibly
I didn't see it.
I'm possibly doxing myself.
I thought you'd been to a concert.
Nah, I've been anesthetized again, fam. So
man, I thought you'd been to Disneyland.
I mean, damn, where was I at? I was talking about the Drew McIntyre thing. That was a great storyline, and if you guys aren't up on that, that would be a good one. I'm sure that there's a ton, and we're going to be putting together a ton on just that alone. So be on the lookout for that.
So we get back to Eric Bischoff was kicking their ass in the ratings, and they was saying the reasons behind it was the WWE was still having characters like the dentist, the tax man, and WCW,
the gobbledygooker or the goobly
what was coming out? Yeah, the gobbledygooker for the Thanksgiving night. Yeah, coming out and getting his ass kicked. He said, and like, this is Eric Bischoff talking about it. He said they had, you just said gobbledygooker. He said, and we had real characters. We had real, our wrestlers were betraying themselves as themselves with their real names and not hiding behind shit. He said, and there's that gritty feeling. And then while that was all going on, along come ECW as well, which was also portraying a more gritty, real style. And one of, as they're talking about in the documentary, it doesn't actually say it, but I'll put two and two together. It touches on the point where Eric Bischoff got rid of Steve Austin, and Steve Austin went to ECW. Probably one of the stupidest decisions he ever made.
He said that by his own admission too. He didn't know what to do with him.
But they knew exactly what to do with him over at ECW. They could see he was pissed off because he'd been laid off because he was injured.
Mm-hmm.
And they just give him a mic. Paul Heyman give him a mic and went, "Yeah, cut some promos." And Steve started, and Steve Austin started shooting from the heart, from the hip.
Yeah, that was huge. And I remember when he came to ECW, because I had seen him prior on, the WCW and the work that he did even before WCW with some of like the AWA and the NWA, and when he was younger, especially during the Stunning Steve Austin era, and he was trying to be like a Ric Flair. And all of these gimmicks that he went through, and before he shaved his head and everything, I always was looking at him. It's like, okay. And then he turned it on and started becoming the Stone Cold's character and doing those things, and became a character that I look forward to watching on ECW. But I just want to say that credit really again goes to Paul Heyman because of what he launched. And I know like Jim Cornette hates the Attitude Era and the ECW angle of all of the violence with tables and all of the extra shit, because he's like, there's nowhere else to go from there, and what the hell, why are you doing rules and all of this stuff, right? But it was groundbreaking. He knew how and knows how to take characters and make them into greatness. And I will say, just think about what happened when they put him together with Roman Reigns, right? Roman Reigns was legitimately hated.
Yeah.
Like not just like heat. It was just like people legitimately were booing him because they hated and didn't want to see him and wanted to see him fail and get fired. And he took that character, made him to be one of the greatest heels, held the company of the modern era, the longest reign, over 3,000 or 1,000 days, right? It was a lot. And he is now, he became one of the biggest hated characters as heels, but was getting good heat, and they created the whole bloodline. And then now Roman Reigns is now legitimately a baby face right now, and like people are like chanting his name and hyped to see him, and on the level of still that top guy even without that belt and as a face. But that's all Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman.
It wasn't Paul Heyman, but the same thing happened with The Rock. When he come on the scene, people fucking hated that dude. Like
I did too.
That Rocky sucks, and they was holding up signs, weren't they, and everything else.
He had legitimate like, I hate you.
Yeah. It took him turning the heel to be liked. Like when he joined the Nation. But it was him and Farouk and Godfather and them, and they had the Nation of Domination.
One of his most epic promos, and that was per his interview. And people always question The Rock and his, if he's being genuine, if it's really the story too. He's kind of getting that label, that Hulk Hogan label, as of late, especially because of his faked Sonic commercials and ads that he was getting paid for on his Instagram. But he made mention that his only thing is that when they go out and he goes to the ring, and because it's announced that he's now part of the Nation, that he was like, can I please, he goes, and Vince is like, can I please have the mic and talk, and cut that amazing promo. Like, amazing promo, and he was so real with it. You know, he was like, I'm not joining this over a race thing or anything like that, but more so, you know, about how you're treating people of color. And it's because 3 words, like, or 2 words, Rocky sucks, or however that was. It was just that whole promo was epic, epic.
Yeah. I mean, because that happened to Rock and because it happened to Roman, they actually brought the Rock in. Do you remember when they brought the Rock in? They brought him back to try and get Roman over, and it just made matters worse.
Yes.
Like, they actually made him have appearances with him, and it just made matters worse. It just made people like, no, you're really trying. Like, people see through it, didn't they? I mean, that the whole push thing, because they was pissed because they wanted, for some reason, they wanted Rey Mysterio and Daniel Bryan, didn't they? And they pushed against Roman Reigns so much as well, like but just before the bloodline stuff.
Yeah.
But Roman Reigns just, like, you can see he's just the, if you built a wrestler from the ground up, it's him. Like, it was him, and it was always him. I don't think people hated him. I think people hated the idea of him and the way he was being pushed.
Yeah, and that was the same thing with Rocky too. I mean, you know, Vince was just trying to just force feed you with these characters, and you're like, no. And that was definitely the Attitude Era was very indicative, if that's even the proper word to use, of the fans, right? You know, everybody had the attitude. We mentioned Rage Against Machine and all of the music that was there. It was very counterculture and F you and in your face and F you, I won't do what they told me type stuff right there. So, you know, it's definitely a great, one of my favorite periods in wrestling, with the exception of now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it in the Attitude Era was like when we started tonight. It was definitely the most popular, most audience driven, most, like, had more eyeballs on it than any other time. And like you said, like, up until now, because it's huge again now.
You can thank Paul Heyman. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is all Paul Heyman, bro.
Yeah,
all of this. This is human. This is Heyman's. I mean, got to give the man respect on that.
Yeah, and Hunter.
Oh yeah, and Triple H, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So they talk in the documentary. Next day they say Hunter's on stage, Hunter's on camera in this, and he's saying, people always say the Attitude Era started here when that happened, and they pinpoint all different things. He said it was a sprinkling of little things, but he believes the actual Attitude Era started with HBK coming out with, like, a skimpy pair of shorts on and socks stuffed down the front of his shorts, and starts dancing around and posing for the camera with pyro going off behind him and stuff like that. And it was at a taping that Vince wasn't at. And Vince was pissed about it. And he was pissed to the point where he told HBK, I'm going to fine you 10 grand. Like $10,000, you're getting $10,000 for something for doing that. It's obscene what you've done, going on the TV and doing what you've done. And then Hunter goes on to say, and then a week later, he never fined him and turned around to HBK and said, we'll have some more of that, please.
Well, you know, it was a little bit more of that. It was a little further drawn out, because that one was the one that was, like, really, Vince got really angry about. But there was another one that, sorry, my green screen just wanted to fall on me for whatever reason. I'm in my bedroom, y'all. So my they were talking about how they kept dropping the little hints in all the promos and pushing and Vince took it out more and was like, no, 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 no. And then the ratings started going up. And that's when, especially with the incident that you spoke of, and then also they showed, on the documentary where, he was holding up a sign over HBK was like bending over and he was holding the sign up or whatever,
I
like for
remember.
and lowered it, and like it was HBK's bare ass on TV, and then he popped it up, and they were all like, "Ooh!" I mean, they were really, really pushing the lines. Because the NWO, if you think about it, that's why they were in there, like killing them, because the NWO had become played and the sterile and the safe and the clean, and it was, they were now had the gobbledygooks type things, where that was before they were the reality type based thing, and they once they embraced it, and Stone Cold was throwing beers out and throwing beers and catching them and chugging them and just doing the beer showers, and you had the whole fans going nuts. It was just a whole different time. I mean, it was a whole different time. Shout out to Mad Ways, Mr. Mikey Unlikely, Miss Joy, Richie D, 420. All the usual suspects are in the house. Shout out, brothers. And then Pam Badass, Jenny Rabbit, Vale, 816. Who else did we miss? I think we got everybody that's chatted. Why does it say? Because I messed it up, Mad Ways. So, and I was anesthetized today and was looking for the file in the middle of the show to find it. Yeah, this whole move thing has got that all kind of jacked up. So I apologize. I'll have the graphics fixed, because Danny sent me a private chat when we began. He's like, "Oi, you effed up, Mike. I'm gonna fine you. I'm gonna fine you 10,000 quid."
It's British Wrestling Rules. That's what it stands for.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, big women rule too, like big bottom girls. You make the rocking world go round. Get on your bikes and ride, y'all. Yeah. It's anesthesia boogie. I mean, this is blurred reality wrestling. We're blurring the lines between the session and the BWR, baby. I'm being good. I'm being good. I'm even saying F instead of saying the word. I mean, Danny, aren't I trying to be good? I'm being.
You're trying to be good, and I seem to just be slipping through the net and letting them go here and there, and thinking as I'm saying it, I'm thinking, oh man. But
now, anyway, so I mean, that era was special. It was absolutely special. It was the era that I watched, and all of the antics that they did with China, D-Generation X, the pimps, of course, with the homie Godfather. It was all epic. It was all epic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the start of that was when Austin won the King of the Ring. If I'm gonna go back and watch, I'll watch it from there. Like if I'm feeling nostalgic and I want to go through some episodes, I'll go back to that era
again.
Yeah, when Jake cut the religious promo on him and Austin come out with a 316. Yeah,
that's it. That was it. And then people started showing up with signs before he even put it on a shirt. They were rocking the signs in the crowd with the Austin 316. That was epic.
Yeah, man, that's where I think it all started. That's where, before then, Austin as well was the fucking ringmaster.
Like, yes, he was when he came back up from ECW.
And they don't mention it in the documentary at all. They don't mention, they gloss over that entirely.
They mention it, but it's very glossed over, because they mention when he came back, when they were doing his timeline, and when he came back, he was a ringmaster, and then they knew that it wasn't working, so they allowed him to do his other character and go for it.
Yeah, he said he come back from because he got kicked in the mouth in the first match he was in. So King of the Ring was like 3 or 4 matches in a night, and it was like a pyramid system, wasn't it? Like where you worked your way down through the brackets. And he got kicked in the mouth in the first match. I believe it was Sable's first husband, Mark Romeo. Was it Mark? Who was in the boxing character? I believe it was him that kicked him by mistake. He had 14 stitches in his mouth, went to the hospital, come back because he knew he was winning it, and it was going to be part of his push. So he come back from the hospital with staples and stitches and won the match, and then cut the promo on Jake as Jake was limping out of the ring. He come out with Austin 316, said, "I just kicked your ass."
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hell yeah, that was gangster when he did that, man. I mean, that character was I like watching his podcast too, you know, and he's had some great interviews on there. I encourage everyone, if you haven't watched those, and Undertaker has one, Austin has one, and they're both amazing, and has great guests, and it's a lot of him. It's a lot of him, but just turned up, you know, and that's what they say a lot throughout this entire thing. And even describing Vince, you know, they tried to say that, you know, and Vince was like, no, the Mr. McMahon character is completely different than Vince, right? And all of the people that they would interview, where they would, when he said that, they immediately were cutting through a barrage of, nah, man, that Mr. McMahon character is Vince. He may be turned up, but that's Vince all day long, you know. So yeah,
because going back away from it, Ted DiBiase's $1 Million Man character, they say, was Vince.
Yes, that was the original Vince.
Yeah, he said that was a self-portrait of himself, getting him to do that character, getting Ted to do that character. Ted just said, I was just acting like Vince, basically, like when he was doing that character. Yeah,
I forgot about that, Danny, but that is true, 100%. Yeah. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that until they said that on the document or earlier on, when that was a part that I was like, I did not know that. Like, I did not know that at all.
Yeah. I used to like him, Ted DiBiase, when he would the best one, when he had the little kid bouncing the basketball. And he said, if you bounce the basketball 10 times, you can have he had like a couple of $1,000 in his hand. And the kid got to 9, he just whacks the ball away. That's the fucking best shit ever.
Oh,
you could see the look on the little kid's face. It's just,
man. I think that I was still younger. I don't know what year that was.
Oh, that's got to be 87, 88, that sort of time. It's got to be.
So I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say maybe 86, 87. I mean,
we were probably not a lot older than that little kid.
10, 11. That's right, because I was like, get it. You know, I was still rooting for him. And when I remember when he smacked that ball away as a kid, I was like, F you, Ted DiBiase. I was like, you know what I mean? He got heat from me. He did it did exactly, and I didn't like him in at all. At all, but they didn't tell the story on here yet, but I actually worked with Ted DiBiase's one of his very, very close relatives. I don't want to misspeak, but he's no longer with us. He passed away during the whole COVID season of 2020, because we were working together at a place right before the panty hit and everything happened and it got real. But I had asked him, because he was very specific in, like, when he was doing all of his introductions and through training, because I was in training with him, and he would make sure he'd correct people and say it's debase when he would pronounce it right. And I kept looking at his like name tag, and then he sat next to me and he had his placard on his thing, and we had gotten a chance to get to know each other and everything. I was like, man, tell me, bro, like, is it DiBiase, and do you have anything to do with DiBiase or anything like that? And he was like, yeah. And he told his relation, it was either uncle or was uncle. It was an uncle. It was something like uncle or whatever. And one of the story, I asked myself, so was he cool? What's it like growing up with the $1 Million Man or whatever and having that? He didn't have anything the kind words to say. He was like, he was a fucking asshole. and he said that when not he, but someone had asked him to come to a family reunion, right? A family gathering, and like invited him to the family reunion for the kids and everything. What was that alert that just happened? Danny Chaz rated with a party of 4. Yes, we got to raid to Blurred Reality Wrestling. That he had basically said that Ted DiBiase wanted to charge, it was like $5,000 to $10,000 for him to show up, but that also meant that he also had like paid for travel and lodging and transportation, and had like a time limit that he was going to be there, the whole nine yards. Like he was like, this is, you are paying me to show up for this, and here's the rider. And everybody in the family hated him after that. So, you know,
that's true to form his character, though, isn't it? That's like that Abraham soul. Like that was what they were all doing, weren't they? That was all.
He kayfabed his family, or was he really that way, though?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
is enough to make his nephew or
as
cousin.
He got older, he became born again, didn't he?
Absolutely. He's now a man of faith. He's absolutely you know, has like an evangelistic approach, you know, with that, and is a man of faith and talks about that. I've seen him bring that up. And you know, people are on drugs, people change, and regardless if you find faith or whatever, you know, there's also a part of, you know, finding maturity, and I'm trying to find that. I'm trying to see if I can graduate from 8th grade lunch table humor, but it just keeps pulling me back in. It's so easy.
You're not trying that hard.
No.
No. Yeah. So going back to Eric Bishop. So Eric Bishop is enjoying his 83 weeks on top. And to the point where the wrestlers at WWE are thinking, who's he paying off? Because our show's better and everything else. And then Vince McMahon books Mike Tyson. And as soon as he booked Mike Tyson, that was the last week Eric Bischoff was on top. And Eric Bishop was talking about it. So he said I was arrogant about it at the time. He said, someone come up to me and said, you heard what they're doing over there?
Is a phone call. Someone called him on the phone and said, hey, you know, they normally would give him updates about it. And
he said, you know what they're doing over there? And he said, I don't really care what they're doing over there. He said, I was so arrogant. He went, I don't even care what they're up to. And he went, I would have just booked Mike Tyson to sign Mike Tyson to a contract. And he said, and then I thought, oh no. He said he knew.
It got his attention. He said, because he wasn't paying attention. He said, now that got my attention. Because like you said, he was like, oh no, he was like, this is a thing. It's no longer the billionaire Ted skits and all of that. I mean, Mike Tyson at that point had just really became a heel. I mean, at that point, if we want to talk about it, because I don't know about you, Danny, but
Stephanie talks about it on the documentary. So
yes, she asked about it.
She said to the guy doing the documentary, she says, yeah, we signed Mike Tyson, which weren't that bad at the time because he hadn't been through his troubles and he hadn't been to prison yet. And the guy turned around and went, no, he just come out of prison. He just bit around Holyfield. He went like, he was.
She was like, was that before? She was like, was that after?
Yeah, she was actually shocked.
And her look was just like, and I think she said, but yeah, that's all she had to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Or that's how they edited it, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly what she done. She just went, and she thought about it for a while. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, signing Mike was a big get for them as far as ratings, and just goes to show, no matter like how you're publicized and criticized in the press, that is a true. That's a true representation of there's no such thing as bad publicity. When Mike Tyson come back from that, whether he did or didn't or whatever, I don't know. I wasn't in the room, but whatever happened, and it let's just say it didn't do him any harm. I don't think, as far as being like staying relevant in the eye, but yeah, in the public eye. But anyway, yeah. So Mike refed a match between Austin and HBK at the next WrestleMania, and HBK was injured, and Austin says it's not his greatest match. He said, but it didn't matter. It was all to do with the booking and Mike Tyson being ref, and the build up to it was dope though, wasn't it? When
dude,
Mike would take swings at Steve Austin, and you think, is it? And it was blurring the lines. Is this real? Is he really pissed? Because Mike's unhinged. He was like, at the time, he was being promoted as his unhinged baddest man on the planet.
He was. I mean, at that time, I mean, he went from being such a huge baby face, and then he got the allegations and was convicted and had to do time and parole and all of these things. He had to deal with the whole Robin Givens thing, and I mean, it was a crazy thing. What up, Chief? It was a big time for him, and as someone who looked at Mike Tyson, the amount of energy that I had for Hulk Hogan as a young kid and all of that, and not really paying attention all that much to like real sports athletes is, I mean, I did, but wrestling definitely as a kid had more of my attention because it was geared towards me and vibrant. But when as I got older and started getting into like, you know, the later elementary and middle school age, you know, of course you had all of the really dope sports pushes. You had Michael Jordan, but Mike Tyson by that time, my God, dude, he became my hero. I mean, I couldn't, it was everything Mike Tyson. Like he's still one of my favorite people, one of my dream interviews. Or like if you ever, they asked a question like, but I asked the question about what movie star everybody would want to meet, but if it's athlete, Mike Tyson's by far going to be one of my top first ones because he's just such a great guy. But he turned heel, and all of these things and the press conferences he cut, he was like, I take medicine so I don't kill motherfuckers like you. And excuse me for my language, I'm sorry. But like, I mean, and then when he made that line, you know, to the reporter that was talking shit ish to him, he was he made that crazy. He said, "I'll F you till you love me." Like,
Yeah,
and like, and was like, "Is he really gonna come down and during this press conference and like?" I was like, "He's gonna kill this guy," because I remember watching it and was like, "Oh." I was like, "Oh my God, this is gonna go down. Get him, Mike." You know? Oh man, Mike Tyson. Yeah, he went heel, full heel, and him being that and then the pop as far as how he did it at the end, and they finished it because you thought he was for DX, and then he took the shirt off and did Austin 316. It was like, you know what I mean? That was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah, man. It just fit, didn't it? It was the time it fit. It was just like the perfect thing. And
yes,
while that was going on as well, they had the whole Vince McMahon versus Austin thing going on as well. So it was like the working man against the evil boss. That whole build up was going on at the same time as the Tyson build up and that. So that was part of the change as well. Tyson went from Vince appointed enforcer to I'm down with a working man and partying and smashing beers over the top of his head and everything else, man. So yeah, So that's where the Eric Bischoff, that's where he said that's when he started losing the ratings war. As soon as Tyson was in and everything else. And then at the same time, the women's division become mighty. It become like it was the first time the women's division was taken seriously, and it wasn't a sideshow. It was actually a main part of the show in the last hour, and was the highlight
time.
of the show.
It got TV time, like those matches that were booked. There were storylines. They weren't escorts. That's not a good word. Managers, valets. Yes, valets and managers and all of those things. When they were with men, I mean, they were brought out, and the women would get into it. And you think about the one and only China. I mean, China was fighting dudes too. So I mean, it was crazy.
I mean, with that, it was Sable.
Yeah, Sable was the first.
Sable was the one that took it. No, I think China was before, but Sable was the one that really tipped it over the edge with pop culture and the bringing it more into the non-wrestling fan, getting the non-wrestling fan's eye on the product as well was the Sable, which she done the Playboy spread, and like I said, she was married to Mark, wasn't she? I think she's married to Lesnar now, isn't she?
She's Brock Lesnar's wife. I believe she is Brock Lesnar's wife, but I can't confirm nor deny these.
No, she is. She is. Yeah, she is his wife. Yeah, back then she was with Mark Mero.
Yeah, Mark Mero, who's an evangelist now as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, that took us towards the end of the episode. Really, was the rise of the divas and all of the sexual exploits, and it showed Trish Stratus talking about it. She pushes Sable as the reason why that her division, and she does nothing but praise her the whole time she's being interviewed, and she's talking about Sable. And
didn't Sable turn around and actually put charges on Vince? Or
I don't know.
Come out, and I believe Sable has come out and put charges on Vince. So I think there was even an NDA. I don't. Again, I've had anesthesia today, folks, so it hurting my brain.
I don't know too much about that. I haven't read too much into it. All I know, the only thing I know about the accusations and stuff is what I've heard from you.
Okay,
so you are my news on that. Yeah.
I start making a noise. Hey, look, Pam Badass said he'd love to see Tyson and David Tua go some rounds.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Even if it's just an exhibition, I'd like to see them move around together. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
You were a boxer, Danny. I mean, you haven't ever brought that up on this show. I mean, tell everybody, and you haven't really spoke much about it even on the sesh. So, I mean, give everybody an opportunity.
I mean, I've boxed, but I wouldn't call myself a boxer.
You like to fight.
I've got in the ring with boxers and fought with boxers, and I've trained with boxers and sparred with boxers, but I've never done anything professional or at a big standard. It was I'm a karate, so I've done karate and worked my way up to a good high level with that. And I was in the British Championships. I won a bronze medal at the British Championships when I was about 30 years old.
Congratulations.
And at the same time, I was training with some really elite fighters at the time. And I was training with like a judo master, karate master, and a professional boxer that was like really good standard, like fought champions, who was teaching me boxing as well.
Anybody that we would know by name?
No, I don't think so. It was no, that you wouldn't know them by name now, but
fair enough.
It was that they were the three guys that was training me. The main sport I was into was karate.
And, wow, I didn't know. I don't know karate, but I know crazy.
Yeah. A quote from my sensei is when I was fighting in the British Championships. A quote with him when we was breaking in between and then going back in, and I was getting some advice was, "Lucky you're lucky." I'm going to swear. Lucky you're an hard cunt because you're fucking shit at karate. That was one of the. That was, and I was fighting at a really fucking high standard at the time. Yeah, yeah. So he said, he's quoted to say that everything I've done was wrong, but somehow you make it work. So I was, yeah, I was very unorthodox and
unconventional fighter.
I was very unconventional fighter. I was a southpaw, so I was, yeah. So, but yeah, I've been in the boxing. I trained in the boxing. I was at a famous gym where Mike Tyson actually trained when he came over to England. When he came over, yeah, when he came over to England, I was fighting in a gym called training in a gym called the Peacock Gym, which is my gym, which is in Canning Town in East London, and it's produced champions. And Mike Tyson came over and wanted to train there. Like he'd heard of this gym and went to train there when he was having a fight over in England. And he approached the owner. I know the owners personally, and he approached the owners and said, like, how much to buy out the gym so that I can train there on my own. And the owners are quoted as saying, "No, you just turn up and pay your £2 like everyone else, and you can train with us. So you just pay your entrance fee on the door, and you can come in and use the facilities like everyone else there." And he done that. Mike Tyson done that. He come there and trained there, and he even give his time to the kids and was training the kids and working with the kids there while he was there. But so yeah, good guy.
That makes me so happy to hear that.
Yeah. Floyd Mayweather done the same thing. Floyd Mayweather, there's videos on YouTube if you type of Floyd Mayweather at the Peacock Gym, at our gym, and he's sparring and training with and putting on exhibitions and that for the local boxers there and helping them and giving them advice. But if you go on YouTube to Floyd Mayweather, yeah, it's the gym. So I'm boxed. I wouldn't call myself a boxer. So I've trained at a high standard and never really, I never really fulfilled what I could have if I'd have stuck to it and took it more serious. But like what you said, I like to drink, I like to party, and I like to have a life as well. So they were more, although I got to a high standard, there was more of a hobby to me.
Understood. I got you. Well, that's fair enough. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, but Chief Token mentioned puppies, and because get back to divas.
Yeah,
right?
So that was the divas thing with the house table. Yeah, with Jerry Lawler.
Correct. I mean, let's take a moment to say shout out to, I mean, JR and Jerry Lawler, and I know his health is completely, like, he had some really, I don't know if he's still alive, but I know he had some really, really near death health issues that just happened like between now and the pandemic, I think.
Do you remember he had a heart attack on the show?
Yeah, I do. That was crazy.
Yeah, I think, was it a Monday Night Raw?
Mm-hmm.
He had a heart attack on the show. I think I think it was Michael Cole was with him.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the other commentator was, but the camera panned away and done the right thing, and yeah, they went
wide.
Yeah, and the paramedics were seeing to him like live on the show. Yeah, yeah. So he's had health issues. Yeah, and Jim Ross as well with his issues. He has a yeah.
Why his face is, been droopy and that's why it was that way throughout, to the end of the them working there on screen. Pan said Miami was the only Kiwi to fight coal miner's daughter. My uncle had an exhibition match with Ali. My cousin is the current #2 world ranked female bantamweight boxer. Man, Pan badass. I just can't wait till you can actually get on the sesh and kick it with us, man, and like talk about, because I'd love to just have you even on here and interview fam. So
that message that you just give, Pan, that's the sole reason I started that sentence that I just said with, I'm not a boxer, I've boxed. Because you just named a boxer. You've just named boxers. I'm just someone who boxed. Like that is why I could never say I am a boxer, because of the people like this that exist out there in the world that are doing it right now and taking it serious. And yeah, man. Number 2 ranked female bantam. That's amazing. Amazing. Yeah, I can't wait to get you on something.
Yeah, man, we got to get you on, Pan. So holler at us.
Who's going to get the exclusive?
Don't be trying to snipe that shit either. Sesh. It's got to be on the sesh, damn it. Don't you be sniped. Hey, listen, you're hearing it right here. You see, you're hearing some backstage politics on Front Street right here. Danny, don't you be get panned. Look, I got dibs. I called dibs first. I'll just play with them. So yeah, I mean, think about it like this too. I mean, you mentioned you know, when Lawler and they had that tragedy happen, he had the heart attack on screen. You know, they get into the Owen Hart situation and you know the Bret Hart situation and what Owen Hart had to do. Owen had a push and was basically the guy and had good matches, top card matches, was a top carder, and all of a sudden, as soon as Bret left, he became the Blue Blazer, which was, you know, the bumbling idiot, you know, and all of that stuff. So there was some punishment that Vince doled out.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people talk of Owen Hart and say that he was loved in the locker room, and he would rib everyone, and he was like he would always be in a good mood and always make everybody laugh, and
It was a jester.
Yeah, they said at like the house shows he would rib the other wrestlers, but they would put him in like an arm lock or some painful maneuver, and he would be up like this, and he'd be selling it, and then as soon as the wrestler looks away, look at the crowd and like yawn, you know, like, and pull faces like that, and then go back to selling it when the wrestlers would look back, and he would rib people like that, and a lot of them got pissed over it. But
oh my god, I didn't know that. That is hilarious.
Yeah, he would rib the wrestlers like that, and like a few of the older guys got pissed about it, like, and he went to court over it. Yeah,
he went to he had to go to the wrestling court with Undertaker and all them. Like,
and they told him to stop doing it. He'd go, yeah, all right, then he'd carry on doing it. Like, yeah,
man, that is
because he could shoot as well. Like he was like a tough guy as well. He was like acclaimed. He was like one of the tough guys in the locker room, like legitimate as well. Owen. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it gets us onto the sad part of the documentary now, where this episode ended. It ends with the tragedy, which was Owen Hart's fall during a live, back then what we call pay-per-view, and he fell a long way. He fell from the rafters of whatever stadium or dome it was, and I believe it was like over 100 feet. Ghost, is that right?
I don't know how far it was, but it was I believe it was anywhere between 70 to 100, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, far enough, because
you wouldn't even want to be up there, let alone fall. Like, or if I was up there, I mean, I'm not scared of heights. I'll work at heights, but that would have my bottle going up there. I'd be worried the height he fell from.
Yeah, man, and he was harnessed in, and he had done this gimmick before where he would fall from the rafters and come
he would fly in, with the
and man, I've got a really, really deep and personal story about this. Was, you know, I mean, it's not deep, but it's one that I'll never forget, because you got to remember that this was when WCW was definitely still kicking WWE's ass, right? And at that time it was WWF. We got Rockin' America. It wasn't an NWA wrestling back in the late 70s, early mid 80s before Vince created. NWA was definitely there and around, because I was watching NWA wrestling on TV. It was where I saw Flair and all of the Rock and Roll Express and Midnight Express and Jim Cornette and all of those guys. Ole and Arn Anderson, the Four Horsemen, all of Dusty Rhodes, that was there. And there was WWF, and I would see Hogan as the heel, and he'd be working the heel territories. But at that time, there wasn't WWF, and that's when he started getting the airtime and started pushing national television and doing the commentation of the things. But in the early 80s and late 70s, it was NWA. Going back to the call center, so I was leading a call center, and at that time, actually it was before I got promoted into management. But they would leave, and I would run Sunday night pay-per-views and have to field supervisor calls and all these things. And we would get a lot of people that were hustling all the time with these wrestling pay-per-views, where, you know, they didn't have good, because at that time you had to have a good credit score to even be able to rent a pay-per-view. And if you didn't have a good credit score, then you'd have to call into the call center to make a payment for the event before we would be able to turn it on for you. And then at that point, if there was any type of glitch and network outage or anything that was going on in that neighborhood, that neighborhood would call and complain and try to get free credit, like even if it was whatever. And if it was something that happened with WWF, like they would have a lot of issues and errors with the thing, they would immediately call for that. And there's also people that were hustling and scamming and trying to say, oh, my shit ain't working. And we had the ability to actually like get in and monitor what was going on with that cable box and seeing what was going on, and or my kid accidentally turned this shit on, all of the normal stuff, right? But when that happened, bro, I mean, we went from normally like there was 100 calls waiting and that shit went to 999. Like everybody that was watching that immediately called the cable company, of all things. Like that's the thing. The cable company does not control the programming that is on the cable programming. So stop calling the damn cable companies. You need to contact directly. Yeah, you want your money back with the cable channels, but the cable company is not going to give you any credit for anything that occurs on any of the broadcasts. They are just the conduit. But leave those folks on the call centers alone, you evil people. And if you're nice and kind to customer service people, then be nice and kind to customer service people. Check your settings and reboot your shit. No, I just say, you know, that was a crazy time, right? And I was watching it. Because we had to monitor it.
Yeah, me too.
And make sure that it was the broadcast. And we had this call center, there was enough desks in one room, split into two sides, and we had at least 500 desks that would get swapped out during shifts and all of that stuff and shift changes. And we would manage like on those pay-per-view nights. Thank you so much, Pan, for that gift subscription to Rockin' in America. Appreciate you for that, fam. They would we would do overtime, and we would get pizzas and do anything and everything to get people to please come in and we'll even give your house free pay-per-view if your kids have whatever. Like we would do all types of creative ways just to get people to come in and help with these phone calls and field these crazy phone calls. But watching that live, because all on every single pillar that supported it in every single direction, there was at least 4 televisions, and it was all tuned to the damn pay-per-view. So I mean, it was anywhere and everywhere you looked, and volume was up, and it was just crazy. When it happened, it was just, oh my God, like, and I was like, this is real. And then all of a sudden the phone calls came in, and my son and my daughter saw this and I need a credit. Now, the first thing you thought of, you know what I mean? Like, as soon as bro's still getting life-saving procedures, they haven't even put them on a stretcher yet, and people are calling asking for credits. So it was just some crazy times, and I'll never forget that day and night. And I wasn't watching wrestling at that time, but watching that live, I'll never forget that memory. And then seeing the horror, the zombie horde coming, it's like it was just traumatic on all levels.
Yeah, I mean, they chose for the show to go on.
Yeah, man.
Which was like Vince talks about it on the documentary, and he says to him, like, yeah, I chose for the show to go on. And he said, I know Owen, I know the family he's from. And he said, I know this business is embedded into them. He said, but it was my decision, and I chose for the show to go on. And he said, I would probably do it again. He said, it's so ingrained in us not to stop the show. Once the show's running, it's running. He said, and he's part of that culture, and he knew that as well. I don't know. He said, I don't know what he would decide. He said, but I felt it was the right thing to do at the time. He said, no, I'll probably do it again.
And people called in and complained about that too. I mean, it was crazy that he did. But and there was the thing about they change out, has been as I've now been to a couple of the tapings and watch the proceedings, they change the mats out. So every single time in between the matches, when the ring goes dark and they distract you with all the other shit, they're changing out the mats. Like they've got them in layers now. But
they just pop them off, and there's another one underneath.
And now though, but back then, I mean, there was the comment about, and I remember seeing it because the blood,
they show
the blood was, and they show it in the thing, was like the blood was real. And that was even a memory that I had, was like, this is crazy, because news was breaking that the homie died, you know what I mean? And like it was definitely, it was no longer blurring the reality of what, of any of it. This was real, and this was not this was a serious thing, and you could tell all of the wrestlers were deeply impacted by that too. And yes, the business was, the show must go on, and it had to go on because of it. But wow, and what kind of balls does that take? I mean, because that's the thing about Vince. I mean, a weak or shameful or scared, or if you want to use the P word, he's not. He is not that at all. He's very much just, let's go, and that's crazy.
That you see, the promo they showed was Jeff Jarrett, and he was with a lady. I cannot remember the lady's name, but she was his valet. Good looking lady, and she was his valet. And they were saying the show must go on, and he said that we had to show on. But you could see they were physically shook. They were like in tears because their friends died and probably rolled past them on a gurney. And they're cutting a promo, and Jeff Jarrett's saying like, Owen, wish nothing but the best for you, blah blah blah. Goes into the promo, and then he turns around and gets back to business of the promo, where he turns around and makes a joke about puppies. He turns around to the valet and goes, "But don't forget, I've got these puppies." And it's
I was getting ready to say
a conflicted,
valet,
such a conflicted thing.
That valet was the one that started the whole puppies thing.
The puppies thing,
He would that I cannot remember her name either.
Look at I.
She was blonde, right?
Yeah.
So
she's wearing a t-shirt with 2 puppies on it.
Yeah.
And he's doing the whole puppies thing, like, and his friends just gone past him, and they know that he's already passed, but they're not selling it yet. They're just going, "Oh, hope you feel better and get well," and they're still giving get well wishes.
Yeah.
When they had already known what was going on, and then they show the blood stain on the mat. They zoom into that on the documentary and saying that they were wrestling, because Brett says the thing that pissed him off the most was the show went on while his brother's blood was on the mat, and Brett was upset about it. He got emotional on the documentary. Wish you were talking about that. Yeah,
it's his brother, and I don't have. I don't have siblings, right? So even and Mama Boogie, she has siblings. So I mean, you know, she was the one that I really interviewed the most and asked, like, so trying to understand what it just really was like growing up with, you know, 2 other brothers and siblings, and just that bond, because she can't really explain the bond and the connection. You know what I mean? And that's cool that I understand it now because of watching my children and seeing the dynamic, and them being twins even it's greater, right? But to have to go back and constantly talk about that and be reminded of that, but seeing that, you know, that has to be traumatic in itself and triggering. And anytime you see it or think about it and have to talk about someone that was that close to you and you grew up and worked together even, and what they did and how close that family was in the business and how serious they took everything. That's a tough one. And I felt that when he said that, man. I felt him. I was like, my God, dude. Like, I would be, I mean, if it was one of my family members that it happened to, regardless if it was a cousin or, you know, any, I would, that would have me angry as hell. Like, I'd be like, come on, man, you got to get at least show some fucking decency.
But it was deemed that it was the fault of the product that it was using. It was no fault of anybody of the team, WWE team or anything like that. It was an actual fault on the harness. It was a known fault.
Absolutely.
It wasn't like a payoff. Right, let's shut this up and say it is. It was actually deemed that harness had this fault that happened.
Yeah, and he was struggling with the harness too. Was some of the reports that I had heard was not only was he struggling with the harness and had some difficulty, which led to the failure while he was hanging, but the story is that he was even fighting the paramedics, trying to keep kayfabe up and doing some things, and was really trying to get people to leave him alone so he could get down with it, you know, or whatever. And while he was actively dying, they were trying to save his life. He was fighting them, you know.
He was an automatic pilot. Yeah.
Wow. That was crazy. That was a very, very, very big thing. And I remember feeling and just remembering that, and it was a very real moment that I was like, oh my God, someone just died on television and people are calling in because of it, and having to deal with this and not even knowing what the proper shit to say was. And, you know, I had to call the VP of public relations and like disturb her Sunday night and was like, yo, I ended up working for her, and she's cool. Such a great mentor that I've had. But I had to get a public statement and have some type of angle that I could get to the people that were fielding the phone calls, because it was such a big thing. And it was, I mean, it was live TV and just put out there for the whole world to see, and just crazy.
Even like what you just said, you called the VB. I mean, like if one of your call center people had said the wrong thing on the telephone, that it would have caused chaos at your company as well. Your company could have been
With the wrong person, they would have got litigious.
saying the wrong
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, I didn't think that, like, you're opening my eyes to how far something like that spreads, like through companies and advertisers and everything else. Like, it isn't just like, to talk from a business standpoint with like, yeah, like
the press would call.
How do you navigate that?
The press would call, and that was specifically everybody. There was rules whenever you had, the press would call in. Number one, they were never supposed to call the call center. They had direct contacts with the public affairs department, and we would remind them when they did call and ask for statements and shit. But it was definitely some craziness that happened, and a very stressful incident that was very real. And as someone who loved wrestling, as we've said, as much as I did early on, and that was at a phase at the end of the new era, or the new generation phase, before they went into the Attitude Era, when that happened, really started getting the Attitude Era to where it was, and I started paying attention. That brought my attention back to, was like, oh my God, and yeah, I'll never forget that. That'll be like, even talking about it, I can smell what the call center was, because we had a whole lot of my favorite pizza, because I was working, so I ordered my favorite pizza spots. I was like, yeah, you know what I mean. But we ate good. But I just I'll never ever forget it. Like, that was a crazy stressful night, and I had to manage that all by myself. Like, had to there was so much to do, and we really needed a team of leadership in there. And at that time, I wasn't considered. I was like a hall monitor, I guess. The supervisors and management and all of that stuff wouldn't come in on the weekend, so they would leave it up to like the lead reps and all of that. And yeah, it was just crazy. It was a stressful ass time. But nonetheless, it was a memory that I'll never forget.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know where to start with what you did.
You go on autopilot, Danny. That's all you do, is you go on autopilot.
I've been in stressful situations at work where I'm in charge and things have happened and gone wrong and things like that, and I've got to navigate it. But the buck always, it's always with me. It's never with anyone under me or around me.
Oh, okay.
So if it lands with me, then I'm the one negotiating, and I'm the one just saying to people, "Shut up. This is for me. This is my time. Go away. Go hide. I'll sort this out." Like, like, sort of thing. But like you say, you got 1,000+ calls coming in, and I don't know how many people worked in the call center. Probably 30 or 40 people was there.
Yeah, it's always the skeleton crew, and we would have on that night, we would double or triple, and like I said, have awards and gifts and promos and swag and signed stuff to get people to come in and work overtime and get paid time and a half to get it. So we would get, I would say we probably had about 100 people, anywhere between 70 to 100 people in the chairs at that time, and it wasn't enough to even
No, so one person being the voice of 100 people and telling him what to say, just getting the message out there is a nightmare.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, and this was before email was a form of communication. So I had to, for the reps, right, on their desks, their terminals didn't have the ability to access any emails or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get all of the thing and then get the email and then print out a 1,000 copies of it, and we had like high-speed printers and big because we would do all of the manuals and stuff there. Type the stuff out, get the thing, boom, and then print it out, and then run around the entire and put it on a copy on everybody's desk. Like, yeah, I was just putting papers like I was dealing cards, like pat, pat, pat. So anybody that came in, on that next shift, everybody had the communication regardless of what happened and was up to date. But yeah, dude, and then having to put an upfront message if you're calling in regards to, like, press 1 if you're calling in regards to the WWF pay-per-view, right? And then they press 1 because that's the first thing they hear, and then there will be a message like, and it was my voice. I'd had to record this statement, and that would basically say, who to call and who to contact, and there ain't shit we can do about it. So
did you start the statement with what's good, what's good, what's good?
Nah, it was what's good, what's good, what's goody. It's your buzzing cousin Ghost Boogie. Old boy just dropped from the ceiling, and you ain't getting no credit because we got no feeling. And they would just hang up. I don't know.
So I'm glad we brightened up that before we. So I don't know about you, man, but I think we did it.
I think we did it too. This was a good episode, and it brought back some memories, and it was definitely, that's a great time and a great era, and we can go 45 hours on just all that. But just to cover that episode, this was the part where it finally started getting into the subject matter that I wanted to hear. I thought that Cable voice was an Ebony brother. Well, I got called all types of racial epithets and all of that because, yes, they always assume that. Yeah. Anyway, so Chief distracted me. No, that was what was the Attitude Era, and the part of this documentary, it was where it really picked up steam and started getting into the subject matter that I cared about, and also started really pushing into the behind the scenes and getting into, okay, Vince did this where he made, Trish kiss his ass, right? That was the thing. Like, he dropped his pants and degraded her. And I remember how brutal of a promo that was, right? All of those things were such a part of that whole Attitude Era, right? It's just amazing to even get some of the interviews of the people that were involved with that and their perspective. So this was by far where I thought the actual series picked up, because the first 2 I was like, yeah, or the first 3 was like, yeah. This one I was like, I leaned in and it was like, and then what happened? So this was like, this is where I thought it took actually sped up. So if you guys actually start to watch this, or if you haven't, you started it and it was like, get back to it, man, go ahead and get to episode 4 where it's the Attitude Era. And especially if you watch that era, even if you want to skip right to episode 4 and then catch the other ones, that's a great access point, I would say. You know what I mean? And then you can go back. So that's my recommendation. But
don't watch it and watch this show, and we'll just tell you all about it.
Exactly.
All in depth. Yeah.
I mean, there you go.
Ghost, any shout outs?
Yes, I want to shout out DJ D Man. He is in Ohio. He's one of my Ohio DJ brothers with the Ohio DJ Alliance that I'm proudly a member of. DJ Diamond Lee is one. Big Stove is one. tons of people, DJ Vader, Vader Mix, but he puts on, and this is his 4th year now that he's put on Beats for a Cure, and they've raised almost $200,000 throughout this process. It is by far the best put together, best managed, and biggest raid train, because it's 24 hours. From starting yesterday, I did the second slot, like slot number 2. There was one DJ that started it off before me and then raided into me, and you guys got to meet my beautiful family. Mama Boogie was like, she was like, the kids were geeked, and it was cool. It was the first time I showed my kids, but shout out to him for including me into it every single year I've been a part of it. And it's been an honor and a privilege, because breast cancer really deeply impacted my life, even as a child, because the first grandmother that I lost was because she ended up having lung cancer and breast cancer, and it spread and metastasized. They couldn't tell where it started first, but it metastasized and went throughout her entire body. And the doctor that she was with, my dad finally was able to convince her to go with our doctor, but this guy was a quack and kept telling her that she had pneumonia, and the whole time it was the manifestation of her lung cancer, and all of that she was dealing with, and then it spread through her bones. But it was a big thing. And then my other grandmother, at the same time, right as I had just lost my my first grandmother, found out that she was had her first bout of breast cancer, and she ended up beating it twice. So she beat it one time, she caught it, beat it. Then later on, like about 10 years later, had it again and beat it again. But this woman successfully survived a brain aneurysm in 1979, 1980, when it was barbaric compared, like brain surgery back then, and aneurysms sometimes they're just fatal. They can't get to them, but she had like a whole side of her head opened up and procedure. I say all this because she was such a tough woman, and both of those women were people who are the people I look back to in my life that were some of the kindest and most loving people that showed me the love and care and affection that I desperately craved as a child. And I always felt safe going to them and enjoyed the time hanging out with them. And it was pancreatic cancer that finally took out my other grandmother, and she went and fought that with no form of treatment for 2 years and thugged it out. And my aunts called me one time when she was very hard-headed, bullheaded, and like endured and went through everything. And my aunts this is before I lived out here, and she had already moved back out here. And they were giving me an update and telling me like, okay, we got her to the hospital and this is what's going on. And they had me on speakerphone, and of course Boogie's going to be Boogie. And I referred to, because they were like, she's going to be okay. And it was some crazy shit that she just went through, and she was coming out on the other side. And my quote was, because she's a fucking soldier. And they laughed in that situation. It was such a stressful situation for them. And I was like, she's a fucking soldier. And that stuck and still sticks to the day when we talk about her, because everything that she went through, she just fought it head on. So when I always say that, I want my children to think back and look at me and remember me, that regardless of what life throws at you, you fight, you get up, and you know, you just got to be a fucking soldier and keep stepping and moving and keep going. So that's a lot of my grandmother in me, and all of the stubborn shit that I got, you know, that's all in me too. But big shout out to them. So I am also a kidney cancer survivor, and this is just a big thing. I have a goal personally to, if you guys want to donate, and it goes directly to breast cancer. It's not any type of GoFundMe or anything like that where the money could be shady and be on some dumb shit. This right here goes directly to the Breast Cancer Foundation, and it's all through Beats for a Cure Foundation. And I personally, all out of all of the DJs, you all have a goal of $1,000, right? So I currently have $70 raised from yesterday, and this is still ongoing. So at any point in time, if anybody wants to donate towards this overall cause that, you know, is a humongous thing on Twitch and a great organization, I encourage you to go ahead, and you can go to here, and I'll just show you the flyer from yesterday because it's got a bigger graphic of my link. If you go to donate.beatsforacure.org/ghostboogie66, again, that's donate.beatsforacure.org/ghostboogie66. You can go ahead and donate to this. All donations are tax deductible, but as always with statements like that, check with your own tax professional for that. We want to thank the Cleveland Clinic, Royal Bank, State Farm, Little Loops, the Ohio Meetup, that's an alliance of DJs for Ohio, Anita's, and all of the other dope sponsors throughout this entire process to be able to help put this thing on. So much love to everyone in that. And I've got to give a big shout out to my kiddos, my wife, who is extremely sick. She currently has COVID and thugging it through it. So, you know, it's just been a stressful time and in the household, but you know, we keep fighting, we keep persevering. So shout out to you, Danny Chaz. Shout out to my usual suspect brethren, my B-Boys Underground brethren, but most importantly, you, the chats, the viewers, the folks that are watching this live, that tune in and support everything that we do, and the folks that are watching this on the replay. We thank you so much. We appreciate you. Don't forget to follow Blurred Reality Wrestling on twitch.tv/Blurred Reality Wrestling. I made the mistake and didn't go live on that. The anesthesia had me in a rush, and you know, hey, look, shit.
We didn't go live. I thought we did.
We were live on your channel, on my channel on Twitch, and then we're live on the YouTube channel. So you guys are able to now follow us and check us out on YouTube. We're live right now on youtube.com/Blurred Reality Wrestling. You'll be able to find us. But
so I raided into you earlier then. All right. I thought I raided into the other channel.
No, you raided into
that's
me.
what confused you. Got you.
I was like, that's what made me look at it. I was like, why did Danny raid into me? And it was like, oh, and it wasn't because I was high. Well, I was high, but I was legally high. And it was administered by a medical physician. You know what I'm saying? I could scan and let y'all see that some of you fuckers will find my name and everything, but yeah, it's legit.
We don't need to find your name now. You tell anyone your name.
I dox myself. You know, my children. You know what I mean? Like, it's all good. I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying?
Everyone knows you. Everyone knows now your name's William Wallace. We all know.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Isn't it nice to be somewhere where everybody knows your name and they're always glad you came? Well, not everybody's always glad I come, you know.
Making a way in the world today takes everything you got, you know. Man, you just got to move on.
Yeah, man, it does. So, Danny Chaz, that was a very long shout out, but I got the run-ons, but there was a lot that I had to cover, and this is, again, please, by all means, if we're
all in your channel now, so if there's anyone you want to raid out to,
Yes.
You can get
While
that
you're
set up.
while you're doing shout outs, yes, I will
Yeah.
figure that out.
So I want to shout out all the usual suspect brothers and all the usual suspects in the chat. Chief Token Up, Birdie, just everyone, Pan Badass, everyone who come through tonight, Rockin' America, and thanks for coming through, Miss Joy, and we got Jenny Rabbit, we had Mad Ways, we had Mr. Mikey Unlikely, Richie Divex, Richie D 420, and we had just a great time talking about the whole Vince McMahon thing. Me and Boogie like to catch up. We like to talk about wrestling, and we'd be talking about it privately. And we said, "Well, why don't we start this?" And this is why we started it. And I'm enjoying the shit out of it. Thanks, Pan, for the bitties. All the bitties donated to go back into our stream or back into Beats for a Cure. So thanks for sending them in. And you can join me and the guys on Sunday on the Chilled on Sunday podcast, where me, Jeff, and Richie will be chopping it up with whoever comes by. Becca's been coming by a lot lately. I've enjoyed that dynamic.
Becca!
And yeah, so we've got Chilled on Sunday. I'm probably going to pop up and do a couple of DJ streams in between now and then. And I might even do a movie watch along. And everybody follow Stew Dog 4. Nice. And how are we doing, Boogie? Do you want me to carry on for a bit more? Are you good?
Yeah, because I am finding out who is currently live with Beats for a Cure, and we're going to be all the DJs that are a part of it. Whenever we raid streams, we raid directly into. And just to give everybody an idea, the goal for the Beats for a Cure for this year is $50,000 being raised throughout all of the DJs and all of the days, right? We are already at $11,875.09. Boom.
You're already over 20% there, and you've still got another.
And we're on day 2. Day 2,
day
y'all.
2, you got another 5 days.
Isn't that dope?
That is dope. Yeah, that's unbelievable. Yeah, like small acorns all joining together, making something big. It's fucking great. I love it. I just it's just such a great thing, like that we've got this medium and we've got this platform that we're on, and we can do good like that. And you're always pushing that envelope, Boogie. You're always doing stuff for other people, you know. And I admire you for it. So keep pushing, man.
Oh man, well, this isn't something I did. I was appreciative to be a part of it, and I apologize. If you guys want to check out the playback of my mix though, and see the kiddos, I do have a Kick channel, and it is kick.com/boogie66. And what I do is all of my DJ sets, and they trickle through. You only get like maybe 3 or 4 of your last streams. And so you can see like the last 3 or 4 of my DJ streams, because I always have those up there. So yesterday I did 2. I did the 2-hour set for Beats for a Cure. My mic was super fucked up because I'm just cussing now, because I was in my living room because I had to set up, because all the painters and all of this stuff, there was all of this renovation, and I had to, do some last minute setup and guerrilla work and getting it all being able to be broadcasting. And the last thing that as a sound engineer, I failed miserably. I didn't do a sound check from the board, seeing what it was going to sound like and my mic for the first, maybe I'd say half of it, is extremely low. So there's times you can't hear what I'm saying if I'm talking over the music, but
it didn't sound that bad though. I was driving. I don't know what it was, but I could hear you pretty clearly. I don't know what bits I missed.
It made me sick to my stomach to listen to it back, because
really was that bad at your end?
Well, no, I mean, I'm critical as shit. You know what I mean? We've already talked about that. I'm going to share a link in the chat as well to everybody out right now. That is a link to the folks to be able to stay on top of who is live for the entirety of this raid. All right. So today is Friday, and this is an Eastern Standard Time. So Eastern Standard Time is 6:13. As of 6:13 p.m. on Friday, we've got DJ Easy Frank. So give me a second, and I'm going to set that up. And yeah, man.
That's cool. Birdie, I've just accepted your friend request. Thank you for sending that.
Shout out to Birdie in the house.
Yeah, thanks for sending that. I got that while we were on there, and I've accepted. How you doing, Chief Toke, mate? You still working? I love it when Chief Toke, mate, comes by. Yeah, I love catching these streams like where he just pulls up and starts fishing and turns the camera on.
Absolutely. Some of my favorites.
When he's driving home and he's just got the dash cam on and listening to some tunes and that. Like, keep doing them, man. I like watching them.
Yeah, man. Chief is good people's, man. He's been one of the folks that's been down with us since day one of the Suspects and forming, and has been on multiple sessions, and just a great person. So much love to you guys. So you guys that are in Twitch, we are raiding right now. I've started the raid. Let's see here. We got to create a raid message, right? So let's see here. Let's create a raid message.
Man, you're a lot more professional than me. I'll just go, it's a raid, and click the button and walk away. You short out messages and all sorts. Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. You got to do it. You got to do it right.
I'll just say to the chat, let them know where you're from, and then when I check up, they've all made their own messages for me. Huh? You can't be a cult leader and then do all the work.
Hey, look, man. I just want everybody to drink the Kool-Aid and enjoy the Kool-Aid. Be like, you know what? This is some mighty fine, tasty Kool-Aid that I need to come back and get some. And Birdie's always, like you said, you mentioned, Birdie's always here for us too. Like whenever I pop up, he's always with us. So he's been down with us since day one. The Oklahoma, he's always representing strong. Miss Catherine, Becca Boo, Birdie. So with that, guess what, y'all? It's about time. Let me find the damn screen where I've got all these browsers.
We need to sort out a game that me, you, and Strudel can play, because you're always in my streams, always in the chat when we're doing gaming. But we'll have to sort out a game where you can join in. I want you joining in with us.
And with that being said, 3, 2, 1, raid. And there it is, y'all. So another episode of Blurred Reality Wrestling in the can, baby. Let's say ta-ta.
Bye-bye.